Hello everyone, this is Persephone, and today we're going to talk about binding spells. Everything that you need to know, because I got many questions. You can send me your question on my personal email. It's on the About section of my channel, and you can also book a personal consultation there. Okay. Everything that I'm going to be saying to you is not going to burden you with negativity, not burdening your karma, nothing like that. That doesn't mean it's risk-free, but there are cases where we need to bind someone or something close to us so they're not distracted, they don't disappear on us, they don't come and go, and so on. Cases where it's totally fine to do binding spells, in my opinion, that we're going to analyze. Case number one, and unconventional. You have a baby daddy, you have someone who is not the best person to take care of your kids, you don't know if they pay child support consistently, and things like that. You bind them. I'm not even going to analyze the well-being of your children. Is the first priority. Here we prioritize children immensely on this channel, so if you think he's going to stray and he's not going to be providing for your children, you are going to bind him, no questions asked. Okay. You can also bind your pets. I'm starting from the simplest cases. I have done some binding spells in some of my cats who tend to disappear on me or hide in strange places, or cats that I do cat rescue for and they are very feral. You can also bind something that is inanimate, like a jewelry or something that is of very big sentimental value to you and you cannot afford to lose it or to have it stolen. All this is okay so far and easy, and you understand why it doesn't really burden you. Now, the question that everyone wants to know, should you bind someone that you're in love with? This is a bit more complicated and you're going to hear many opinions online, so this is my opinion. I believe that it's always a very negative and very dangerous thing to override someone else's will. So if it's a person that they are not into you, like you try to date them and you confess your feelings and you got rejected. Or it's a person that you have a relationship and it hasn't been working out for quite some time, like the person is a cheater, the person is abusive. You don't want these people bound to you, okay? I don't recommend it because it's going to backfire, and a long time ago I did a binding spell that backfired terribly on me, so I'm going to share this story with you today as an example to avoid. And last but not least, don't bind people that you have a crush on, but you don't know a lot about them. This is related to my case, to what happened to me, that I cannot reverse. When to buy a person that you are in love with. If it's a person that is very shy, but you know they have feelings for you because, let's say, they are inexperienced or because they have been hurt in the past, and you're already in a relationship, there is already a lot of attraction, it's okay to do it because it's like you ride on that loving energy and that chemistry that exists and you give it a boost with your binding. But you're not abusing the other person's will, you're not imposing and forcing your will, so that's okay. Another case is if your relationship has been a target of a curse or breakup black magic and you are on the repairing stage, that you have started to do the cleansings that we mentioned in the previous videos to remove the curses, but your relationship is still fragile. For example, you are married to a man that some other woman wants and is trying to break you up. It's totally fine to bind your own husband, you know, because you already have very deep spiritual bonds anyway. If there is a person that they were very much into you and all of a sudden they become infatuated with someone else, all of a sudden they ghost you, all of a sudden they break up with you, I would say before you do any bindings, I'm not completely excluding it, but before you do any bindings, you should make sure that there is not a curse involved. I really feel that the spiritual community and the witchcraft community doesn't give enough emphasizing on the curses. People don't just turn crazy from one day into the other and forget all about you. Two cases are possible. Either the person was a narcissist or a psychopath or some other kind of psychic parasite. I refuse to call them psychic vampires in this case because vampires are attractive and they're parasitic, they just drain off your energy. Either they were that and they were faking all along, or they were normal people, they had no magical defenses and some curse hit them and all of a sudden everything is like exploding. So you have to make sure first, and then if you verify that there is a curse, for knowing the signs and all that, look at my curses and hexes video. then you can start the binding spell as damage control. It can be very powerful and it can stop your relationship from being destroyed because of someone else. And I would say you should do a return the curse to sender spell immediately, because we don't know what we're dealing with. You know, it's very powerful if the person all of a sudden one day changes personalities. Now, you're going to ask what happened to you. A long time ago, I had some videos on my other YouTube channel, but I removed them because they were feeding off the toxicity. There was a person that I had a huge crush on, and that person used to be a very good friends with me, like the type of friendship where you talk 8 hours a day, like you have your own secret jokes and you communicate about everything and you have common interests. I still think that this person was one of my soulmates, because a soulmate isn't necessarily someone that is the person you're going to marry, and also we have multiple ones. But they had a lot of problems and they were not available emotionally and spiritually. But I was so obsessed with that person, and I didn't know all the information that was actually going to create huge problems later on. For example, okay, I'm going to give you the dirty details here without naming people. This person had some fetishes that they were borderline paraphilias, and they would make the relationship impossible. For example, one of their fetishes was cuckold fetish, and if I was going to end up dating them, I would have to sleep with strangers for their pleasure, which is something that I'm absolutely not going to do, because we're going to discuss about sex and love magic. Exchanging sexual energy with multiple strangers is extremely dangerous and it can actually ruin you. So if I knew that back then when I had the huge crush, I would not have done the binding spell. But I didn't know it, and it was the time where I was having huge advances on my magic, so I was having this confident boost that I can do it, I can bind them. And then I did the binding spell that I'm going to describe to you that is very powerful. And one small detail about that spell is that once you bind, it cannot be broken. It cannot be reversed. There are spells that have a reversible spell, like imagine that you give a vaccine and there is an antidote, or you give a toxin and there is an antidote. Some medications have it, some don't. This is one of those that once you bind, it's forever. So I did that spell, and the person, it has been years, we are no contact, they're still obsessed with me, they're still stalking me, they're still harassing me, because they had extreme negativity inside their psyche that at the time where I was in love with them, they were hiding it. And obviously you can't hide something forever. So after I created this connection, imagine like a tree with roots, that there is a huge cord connecting you and the other person. All of that negativity started to leak towards me, because that was their true nature. Long story short, this person has practically no life now. They have grown old and unattractive, unfortunately. I don't say this to insult anyone, but I mean that they have no other options to distract them. So they spend a lot of their unproductive time online writing several slanders about me to all kinds of websites. Especially some of the websites are so dangerous that if you try to access them without a VPN, people are going to steal your credit card information, like talking about the bottom levels of the internet, borderline dark web. I don't have a lot of regrets in my life, but binding this person was one of my biggest regrets. Now I have a stalker forever because of my amazing idea that I know this person well enough, and oh my god, we are soulmates. So I'm not saying this to scare you. All I'm saying is that if you really feel in love with someone or have a crush, it's better to do tarot readings first. It's better to take your time to get to know them as much as possible in different situations. And if, let's say, give it a minimum of 6 months and everything goes well and this person shows that they're also attracted to you, then by all means go ahead and do a binding spell. If not, when you are infatuated, we never know what's hiding behind closed doors. So don't be like me. This person is going to be stalking me forever, and it's not pleasant for either of us. Now, how do we bind? Since binding is going to be essentially a love spell, I'm going to assume that for most of you it's going to be a love spell. We're going to need 2 candles. My personal preference would be 1 red and 1 pink, but you can choose 2 red ones or 2 light pink ones, or if you have a favorite color that you associate with love, it's totally okay to use that color as well. For example, if the person that you are in love with bought you, let's say, a yellow dress, and every time you see yellow you remember them, or if they tell you that their favorite color is green and you started wearing green because they like it, you can use green as well. Just avoid black, purple, and other colors that we use for black magic. Okay, so you take these two candles, we're going to do candle magic, and on one of them you are going to carve your name, and on the other one you are going to carve their name. And you are going to use something to actually tie the candles together. By something, I mean you're not going to use a ribbon or something else that it's going to catch fire. Preferably some light wiring or something that is, if you have a candle holder, you can even place them side by side. As long as they touch each other, it's totally okay. If you're going to say do the colors in the candles need to be different, not necessarily. Like I said, one red and one pink is my preference, but you can use the same color for both. After you do that, we're going to need some flowers. By flowers, again, my preference is roses, because roses are the flowers with the highest frequency when it comes to positive energy and love. But again, if you have a favorite flower, if you have a bouquet of flowers that your special person gave you, you use these flowers as well. The most important factor for the spell to work is your own feelings. And I'm not going to be tired of repeating this. You have to feel the feeling 100% if possible for the spell to work. So if you want to care someone, you have to feel 100% hate. Otherwise, it's not going to work. If you love someone and you want to keep them with you, anything that can trigger your brain to that happy memory, we're using it. So if your favorite flower is, let's say, something else, you use that. No problem at all. Now, essential oils. What is your favorite essential oil, or do they have a special perfume that they use? Does that perfume has base essential oils? Pick one of them. I want to make the spell as personalized as possible. It's very easy for me to say to you, oh, just use jasmine, just use patchouli or something that is popular, but the more personalized it is, the faster the results. So if you have essential oils that or smells that both of you like, for example, you went for a picnic in cherry blossom season and you smell those flowers and they smell good, try to find something that smells the same. If you like the candles and it's okay to use the essential oil directly on the candle, you do it. If not, because we don't want byproducts of smoke, you can just use a few drops while you have the candles lit and relax, meditate, and try to slowly inhale and enjoy the smell. When the candles are completely melted, because that's going to take some time, so I recommend either not using huge candles, because sometimes I used to do that, I got big candles on discount and then the spell took forever. If you can do it all at once, then either use smaller candles or just use candles that you can hide somewhere away so that other people don't touch them and contaminate them with their energy. Preferably, it should be a full moon, but if it's an urgent matter, someone asked me this very intelligent question, one of my subscribers here, that do spells need to happen in specific dates or in specific phases of the moon? Preferably yes, but that's not absolute. Like I said, if your marriage is under a curse and you're going to lose your husband, we're not going to wait for the full moon for you to start working. You start working right now. But if you can wait, and if there is a slow burning romance with a person, wait for the full moon. Now, when you meditate, I want you to let your thoughts relax, and eventually, you're going to start seeing things passing, like visions, probably your concerns and your worries. You're not going to act judgmental towards yourself. You're going to act with kindness, okay? You're going to observe them, acknowledge your feelings, and let them pass. Like if you feel worried, it's okay to be worried. If you feel stressed, it's okay to be stressed. Imagine that. How would you treat a very good friend that they would say to you, I'm very worried about my marriage, or I'm very worried about the future? You wouldn't start shaming them and judging them. Same feeling. And after this, after quite some time, when you're relaxed, you're going to start imagining of the positive scenarios of the future, of what's going to happen in the future. Then you keep that image, you keep that feeling, and you meditate on it as much as you can. Like I said, some people have more spiritual power than others. Some people are more advanced. If it becomes overwhelming, you stop, you take a break, then you start again. Now, after the candles completely melt, and the spell is complete. Because this is a spell that we want to preserve the energy, we are going to do a small twist that I came up with, and it actually works. We're going to include freezing at the end, which means you're going to take the melted candles that they have now become one, put them in a safe box and put them in the freezer, which means that if you know the basics about freezing spells, the energy remains unchanged. You've bound this person and they are bound with you for as long as you want to in the fridge. In the, like, by fridge I mean you're using the energy of water and ice essentially, but I understand that this is not sustainable unless you're in Alaska, so we're going to use modern technology as well. Make sure that other people won't find it and start touching it and asking questions, because it's a very energy sensitive spell. So we want only your energy and the mental connection, the energy you have with your loved one. We don't want other people touching it, or cats stepping into it, or cats breaking it, all things that happen to me. So please, if you have cats, remove them from the room before any other witchcraft work or spiritual work takes place. That is going to create a mess and distract you. After that, you are going to have to wait for the results, but it's also important to not stress too much for the results. And this is a spell that works very like underwater, in a sense of, you may think that nothing happens, that the spell isn't working, but it is working. Usually, from my experience and the experience of the people who booked consultations for their own personal spell, you wait, nothing happens, and then all of a sudden, one day, something massive happens. Or if you are married, again, the person is going to come back and tell you, no, I don't know what I have been thinking. In my case with the stalker person, because that was the spell that really backfired, every time that I was thinking, okay, the person must have moved on, I get a message from a fan or sometimes from a relative that, oh my God, did you see what is written about you on that website or on the other website? And every time I look at it, there is a very, very specific way this person is using to write, and I immediately know it's them. And I'm like, oh my God, they're still obsessed, they're still regurgitating things from years ago, and it never ends. So just because I don't know that they have been obsessing or it hasn't materialized yet into action, doesn't mean it's not happening. I want you to be patient and to have confidence in yourself. Now, because I have questions from people who are completely new to this, we're going to have a video soon about how to discover and develop your psychic powers. If you have psychic powers and you're afraid to use them because of your religion, that's okay. Again, you don't have to use them, but it's good to know about them, because if you have psychic powers, other bad people are going to target you, regardless of you using them or not. Sometimes because of envy, sometimes because you used to be a threat for them in a past life, sometimes because they honestly have nothing better to do and they're looking for targets. So you're going to learn to recognize the signs, both in you and others, to protect yourself. Okay, if this video helped you, please subscribe and share, because this channel is yet not monetized and it's very difficult to work for free. I mean, I'm not going to ask you to pay me, but YouTube at least has to pay me for the content that I upload. And for any questions, the comments and my email are open. Thank you for watching.